so much for joining me. Well, today I am going to create 10 cards with the Spellbinders card kit of the month for September 2022. I'm a little late posting it. I was actually had 3 cards ready, and then I made another one, and then I made another one, and then before you know it, I had 10 cards. So we're gonna I guess crafting is therapy. So today we're gonna create 10 cards using the kit this month. This is the Spellbinders card kit of the month again, and it's called So Happy. And the cards are going to be fairly simple today, but I did want to share some inspiration with the kit. And before we do get started, I do want to say, oh my goodness, you guys are amazing and awesome. I had I think on Friday, I had to find a big box big enough to hold all of the lovely prayer and happy mail that you guys had sent. The P.O. box was overflowing. They actually had to put it in another larger unit, and I was blown away. If I was blown away just with the outside of the letters, I know that my mom's gonna be blown away when she opens up each and every one of them. So I appreciate all of your wonderful happy mail for her. It was 3-day mail when I sent it, so she might get it today or tomorrow. This weekend, my mom has her own home, and my brother had been staying there to help take care of her. My sister decided she's an empty nester. Her kids are out of college and on their own now, and so she has an extra room. One room she actually made into an office, but the other one she had fixed up for my mom. So she's going to be moving in. My mom's going to be moving in with my sister, which is nice, so they could be close by and help her with anything that she needs, which is wonderful. But I'm excited to hear her thoughts on opening all that. I think it's going to be wonderful therapy for her. So thank you all for that. And we're going to jump in and get started with that. With that being said, first I actually embossed a panel of pale blue cardstock, and I trimmed it down about a half of an inch so it would fit in the center of my card base, leaving a little bit of a border. The embossing folder that I use is called Plaid Company. I use this a lot during the fall, but I love this embossing folder, and I think it's going to go really pretty with our embroidery hoop that we made during the unboxing. I'm going to use this for my card today. So let's go ahead and adhere our background. Let me measure this for you. This measures, let's see, 3 3/4 inches wide by 5 inches long. So with that, we're going to flip it around, add some adhesive, and then we'll tack this down to the center of our card base. And after we have this adhered, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Now I have a piece of white cardstock. I put it in my stamping positioner. Now this, I know you guys are going to ask, but this, I was at the dollar store, and this was a sticky backed little grid mat, and it was not much bigger than this. I would say maybe 5 by 7, and I just used my paper trimmer and trimmed it down so it would fit in here. And I think this is going to work really good for holding down my paper, but it was only $1.25. Well, it's not the dollar store no more, it's the $1.25 store. But that is what this blue mat is. We'll see how long it lasts, but I thought it would be, usually I tape down my cardstock, so I thought this would help. The sentiment that I'm using is from our stamp set. It's called French. It says, "Friendship is sown with love and measured by kindness." I think that's so pretty. Now I'm going to ink up my sentiment with my black ink, and I'll stamp this, and it just stamps beautifully. And with the I can just pick it up with that adhesive backing, but Friendship is sown with love and measured by kindness. I think that's so pretty. I put it in the middle because I might fishtail the end. Now, I have my sentiment done. And you know what? I want to let you know that I'm going to use these strips that we cut away that are embossed or dry embossed from this panel. I'm going to keep these. I'm going to use these on my next card. We're kind of going to stretch our panels. And any kind of embossing folder that you would have would work, I think, fabulous. I have some white twine, and I am going to tie a bow around the top of our embroidery hoop. You know what's so funny is I cannot cut a straight line for the life of me. I try and try. Look at, these are all the strips that I've cut. I'm gonna try one more time, and it's still not exactly straight, but it's gonna have to work. Usually I bring in my paper trimmer, but we are going to just roll with this. I'm going to add some foam adhesive along the left of my sentiment. Put one more piece of foam adhesive on the other side of my sentiment so everything's nice and even. And then for bells and whistles, I'm going to keep it soft, and I'm going to use some Nuvo crystal drops. This is Ivory Seashell. I love that Spellbinders is carrying these now. And I'm going to add a few little pearls. Just around my florals. And then since our sentiment is black, let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to take a black, I'm going to use this a lot. This is just a black memento marker. Any kind of black jelly roll pen you have would work. But I'm going to add some little dots to the center of my flower. And that looks wonderful. And that will finish card number 1. For my next card, I have a panel. I trimmed down a piece of white cardstock. This is 3 3/4 inches tall. We're going to make a landscape style card, and so this is 5 inches wide, I think. I better double check that. Yes. So 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. And then I have those strips from card number 1. I thought we would kind of crisscross them and add them to the bottom of our panel here. I have a little bit overhanging, so I'll trim this off. And then I have 2 of the pink leaves from our die cut pack, 2 of the gold hearts, and then I'm going to use this die cut piece. We're going to put this in the corner, and I'm going to use some foam adhesive on the back here. I'm just going to add a couple pieces of foam tape. Now the kit does come with foam tape, but I like to bring in mine because it's just quicker, and it's not, believe it or not, it's not as dimensional as, kind of looks like a present, huh? It's not as dimensional as the one that comes in the kit. The one that comes in the kit has a little bit more height to it. And I'm going to trim down a couple small strips of foam adhesive to put behind our pink leaves. Before I add my hearts, we're going to stamp our sentiment. I already have it on an acrylic block, and this says sending handcrafted hugs and hellos. I think that's the cutest little sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and rub my sentiment. We're going to stamp this with our black ink right next to our floral. Making sure it's straight here. And then we can add our hearts. I know I want one here. And we'll put one up here. Spread that gold out. And for this card, we're going to bring back our Ivory Seashell. And we'll add a few pearls. And you know what? I'm jumping the gun here. But there's my pearls. And then we're going to go ahead and add this to the front of our card base. Make sure it's open the right way. Should we add some color behind here? let's see if we can find some cardstock to put behind here. Oh, ideally, I think I know which one I want. And then we'll add some adhesive behind here. I think this is going to go really nicely. I want to make sure my hearts are right side up. We'll adhere this to the front of our card base so it completely covers the front. And then I'm going to add some adhesive. And we'll add our panel. And then that will finish off card number 2. For card number 3, I'm keeping it really simple, and I embossed a card front panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, with a Spellbinders 3D embossing folder. This is called ORIGAMI, but any kind of embossing folder you have would work. I'm going to keep it white, and I loved how the circles kind of emulated the pattern in here. I just thought it goes really good. So let's adhere this to the front of our card. And then I'm going to, I have some white twine. I'm going to tie a bow with this. Okay, and then I have 3 different sizes of circles. Using some circle dies, I just trimmed them out. And instead of using the silver mirror cardstock in our kit, I went to a previous kit and got some gold. I think that's going to go good with the lettering that's on our Handmade with Love little box. This is from our chipboard pack. So there's already adhesive behind it. We're going to layer all 3 of these together. And then I mentioned my black memento marker. I'm going to do some faux stitching, and I'm going to go all around the white of this circle. And I'm just using this to create some dash lines. Okay, and then we're going to put this in the center. I want the bow to kind of overlap a little bit, but I want this in the center. And we're going to add a few pearls. And then that will finish this card. For my next card, I thought we would create a card background filled with some flowers. So I went through the flowers and found all the ones that didn't have a white border around them and kind of arranged them on a panel that was slightly smaller than my card base. And then I have my sentiment. We're going to use our stamp set. This says, thanks, you made my day. So let's stamp this with some black ink. And I stamped it on a piece of white cardstock, and I just trimmed it down so I didn't have that much room around it. But I'm going to bring back my memento marker, and I'm going to do some faux stitching around this as well. Okay, kind of staying with our stitching theme. So there's our sentiment. I'm going to go ahead and add some foam adhesive behind here. And then we are going to take some more foam squares, and I'm going to layer all of my flowers on that panel. This way there's a little bit of dimension. I think that looks wonderful. Now, since they're all overlapping, we're going to flip it around, and I'm going to use my scissors, and we're going to trim off the excess. Our panel, it looks like there's a little bit of dimension to it. And then I'm going to use my tape runner, and we're going to adhere this to our card base. We'll put this right in the center. And then I'll remove the release paper off of our sentiment. And I'll add this right in the middle, maybe towards the top a little bit. Okay, now to add a little bit of more dimension, I'm going to bring back my Ivory seashells. And we're going to go over the flower centers. And I just dotted the ones with the dots. And then I put some, you can see there, I got the little dots. And then that will finish that card. For my next card, I used the second, usually I only use one sheet of the pattern paper, but I like this so much that I trimmed down another panel. But this time my hearts are going right side up since we're going to make a portrait style card. So this measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. We're going to add this to our card base. And then I found some more of those pinwheels. This is a die cut pack, and then also a green button. And then this was from our sticker pack. You can see it's sticker. We have lots of stickers. And I took that from here. And what we're going to do is take this. I'm going to put some foam adhesive behind it. I love the way this looks. I think it looks so fun. Okay, and I have a button. We're going to take a small foam square, one behind our button, put this in the middle, like so. And then we're going to take some twine and create a faux bow with this. I'm going to take a glue dot and add it to the middle of my button. Added the glue dot to the button, and then I can add my twine to create a faux bow right in the middle. And then I'm going to flip this around, and we're going to take some adhesive and add it to our foam, and then place this behind our circle and add some more adhesive layered on some white cardstock. I layered it on a slightly larger white circle. This way it wouldn't get lost. It would kind of stand out. I just love the way this looks. Kind of just clean and simple. I'm going to add some adhesive behind this circle. We'll put this in the middle. And I'll trim down my twine here. I'm going to keep them a little bit long. And then from our sticker pack, I have a sentiment that says "with love" that's in gold. I'm going to add this to some white cardstock. And then we can trim off what's overhanging. I'll flip this around. We'll add some foam tape behind here. And then we can add this just below our little pinwheel, kind of centering it. And it's just an everyday with love card. I think that's really cute. And that will finish that card. Okay, for my next card, I was inspired by the sentiment. In our stamp set, there's a sentiment that says, "In the quilt of life, friends are the stitches that hold it together." So that's the sentiment that we're going to use for our card. So it mentioned a quilt. So what I did was, I have a square punch. This is nice. This is a 1-inch square punch. And I've had it actually with a, this is not a 1.5, it looks like. To me, it does not say 1.5 inch. Well, that's kind of odd because I don't think this is a 1.5 inch. I think this is a 1 inch. This is a 1-inch square. Okay, so I'm not losing my mind. You guys are proof that says 1.5 inch square. But I just used this punch. Let me show you. I actually used this punch to cut out fishtail banner. So if you want to invest in a punch, a square one's nice because you can actually create a fishtail banner with it too by punching the end, which is really handy. So that's why I have this, and this is great for swatching too. But I took my 1-inch, and I'm rambling, but I took my 1-inch punch, punched out all of our pattern papers, every single one. And I thought we would do a little bit of quilt work on a piece of cardstock. This is a card front panel that I'm probably going to trim out eventually, but I wanted to make sure that I can get them all on there. And then I did die cut using our dies this month, another silver little needle. And we'll put that aside for now. But I have all my squares, and we are going to create a patchwork quilt. Now, let me show you the paper pad. You can see I just punched out a whole bunch of all the patterns. But after I punched them all out, if you guys want a quick and fast card, or you want to make 2 of them, you could do the same thing with the front of your 6x6 paper pad. Trim this down so it's slightly smaller than your card base. And this front pattern, let me show you. You can just trim it out with your paper trimmer, this piece. And then this, you can create the same exact thing for our card today, because it looks like a quilt. So if you don't want to do all the punching, you could do this and kind of cheat, if that's making any sense at all. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take our little squares, and I'm going to use my tape runner, add some adhesive behind them, and we're going to layer them on our card here. I'm going to start at the very top, and I'm going to alternate colors with prints. Let's add this one at the very top. And then we're going to basically fill in, leaving a little bit of a white gap. We're going to fill in our entire background with these squares. We're going to create a quilt. Okay, so we are all done. We have a little bit overhanging, but I love the way that looks. See how it's overhanging? But again, if you just wanted to trim down this, you probably could get away with the same exact. Okay, I'm going to take my paper trimmer and we're going to trim this down. I do want to trim it down so I have a little bit of a border. I'm going to take a 1/4 inch, and I'm going left to right, so I kind of have my quilt pieces, for the most part, evenly spaced. So that is our handmade quilted panel. Love this. And then we have, these are the circle dies that came with a kit this month. Using the smaller one, I die cut out one with white cardstock. And then using our larger one, what I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to cut out a circle in this panel. So let's run this through the die cut machine. Okay, now I'm going to take this panel and we're going to flip it around. We're going to add some adhesive behind it. This is going to go on our card base. I'm going to flip it around because I got ink on it. We'll stamp this in the center. Now I'm going to take my thread, my needle, and then you can actually thread twine through it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to thread my needle, and then I'm going to add some adhesive behind it. I'm going to add it on my card so I don't get it on my craft mat. And then we're going to put this in the bottom, like so. And then I'll flip this around and we're going to add some foam squares behind here. I'm going to add this to the open circle area. And then I'll take my and I'm not going to add any bells or whistles. I just like the simple look of this with a little bit of dimension, and that will finish off that card. For my next card, we're going to keep this one really simple, but I mentioned during the unboxing that I thought the buttons were just adorable. So we're going to keep it really, like I said, really simple card, but I love the way this looks. I'm using the Circle Illusion 3D embossing folder, and I embossed a card front panel with that. I'm going to flip this around, and we're going to adhere this to the front of our card. Once, I love the dimension that has. Now once we have this adhered, I have some silver mirror cardstock. This measures 1.5 inches wide by 3 inches long. And then I have a piece of white cardstock that is slightly smaller. We're going to mat this on here. So let's adhere our white cardstock to our silver mirror. Just making sure it's centered. And then what we're going to do next is take our buttons. Oh, that would be pretty too. If you want to do the same card using these, I think that would be pretty. But I'm going to use the buttons today. So let's adhere our buttons 6 in a row, just like they are on our sticker sheet, like so. Kind of evenly spacing them. And then we'll take our cute as a button. I'm going to take some white cardstock and we're going to mat this on there. I'd like to stick it and then trim it. It's easier for me to keep it straight. I think it gives me a little bit more balance. And then this is just going to go in the center of our card. I think we're going to keep it classic and clean. Some foam circles that are not very dimensional. These are about half the width of the Spellbinders foam squares. So it's not going to give us that much dimension. I'll put this towards the top. And I'm going to do one more thing just to make this a little bit more cutesy. Now I have my twine. And I'm going to use some of my glue dots. These are Journey dots. I don't know if Spellbinder still has these or not, but if they are, I'll list them. I'll put them down below. I like them because they come off in little squares. And I'm going to put one on each one of my buttons. Okay, so we have foams. We have some adhesive dots on each one of the button centers. Now what we're going to do is do a faux knot. We're going to make those buttons look real. So I'm just going to tie a little knot like so. I'm going to attach it to the center of those two dots. And then I'll trim off the left and right like so. And it looks like our button is threaded. So you just tie a knot. I wouldn't pull too hard on the knot. You want it to show a little bit. Adhere that knot to the center of the button. Then you can trim off the ends while it's on there. And just repeat the process. So our buttons have some texture to them and they look real. And I'm going to do my last one. Just tie that little knot. And don't tie it too tight, but you can see it on here. And then you can attach it to your button. And then you can just trim away the longer portion of the string. And we have some buttons that look real. I guess I love the classic feel of this. Just looks clean and neat. But that is a great way to use those buttons. And again, you can use any embossing folder. But I love the Spellbinders 3D ones. And that will finish that card. Kind of a clean and simple card, but I like it. For my next card, I trimmed down 3 strips of pattern paper. And they are 1.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches long. What I did was just trim down 3, this is 6 inches, and I just trimmed down 3 1.5 inch strips, like so, and then I put them in my paper trimmer and trimmed off at the 3.5 inch mark. Now I'm showing you this because the leftover piece from these we're going to use in our next project. So if you do this, trim it into the 6 inch strips from your pattern papers, trim it to 3.5 inches long, but keep these because we're going to use these 3 extra pieces that we cut on our next card. So this is another simple card. We're just gonna layer all 3 of these on our card base. Let's just remove the release paper here. And I'm gonna put these right in the middle. Like so. I think that's a good spot. And then, well, do we want that there? Maybe I'm gonna flip it. Okay, I think that's a good spot. After we have our flowers done, I have some more twine. This one actually has some of my red ink on there. And we're going to tie a bow with this. I'll use another one of my glue dots. And I'm just going to secure it. Let's see. Actually, let's add our glue dot behind our bow. And we'll take some more twine. And then tie a knot with it towards the top. And then I'm going to trim away the tails of this. Okay, now in our chipboard pack, there's a flower here. Okay, I took the flower chipboard that's almost the same color as this flower here. I'm going to cover the knot from our twine, kind of seal it. And then we have our bow that we put on our glue dot. We'll take that and put it in the center of that flower. And then I'm going to finish it off with some crystal drops. I'm just going to add some pearlies to our flower centers. When there's dots on, like on this, I'm going to create a little cluster of pearl dots to kind of go with the polka dots that are already on there. And that will finish that card. Kind of a very simple card, but I think it's a great little note card for just every day. And of course, if you wanted to use like the sentiment strips that we have, you could. I think the black's a little too bold for this, but if you wanted to add one of these, you could. And that will finish off that card. For my next card, I have some pattern paper with the leaves. This has some gold embossed detail on here. And we're going to add this panel to our card base, which is slightly smaller. So it measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. And this looks very odd and ugly shaped, but pay no mind because this is just our pop-up foam. Our pop-up foam. I trimmed it down so it would fit behind this heart here. And that's what we're going to take from our sticker sheet. We'll flip this around and I'm going to add the foam behind it. And if you want to use your anti-static powder tool and go around the edges, you could. That will help take away the stickiness. But I'll take my sticker that we popped up and I'm going to place this in the center. And then I have 2 of the little heart straight pins, which are just adorable, from our die cut pack. I'm going to use the sentiment in our sticker sheet. Got 2 of them stuck together here. I like the one that says, "You are pinned to my heart." I think that's just adorable. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to crisscross my pins. Like so. And I'm going to tack my sentiment to that, to those pins, so they're stuck behind it. And then what we're going to do is flip this around, and I'm going to take some foam adhesive. We're going to add that to the back side of our sticker. And then I'm going to remove the release paper. This is just going to be a quick and easy card. We're going to stick this. There's a sentiment in here that says today, but I liked "You are pinned to my heart." And I'm going to just adhere this to the center of that heart with those pins. Like so. And then I'm going to take my diamond stickles. And I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle to that sticker. in the flower centers. And also to the straight pins. And that will finish that card. Very simple, but I love the outcome. For my next card, I mentioned that we were going to use those extra pieces. So here they are. I made sure that the teal was in the middle. Do we want that on the bottom or top? I guess it really doesn't matter. But I'm layering them together, and we're going to first layer them on a piece of cardstock, white cardstock, because this is patterned paper. It's not cardstock. I need the stability of the cardstock behind it because we're going to pop it up. So I'm going to add my pink, and then we'll add the teal right below it. Wonderful. And then I have this piece from our die cut pack. I think this is going to go really pretty just off to the corner right here. So let's add that with some foam squares. This one says, "May your day be filled with all the good things." Love that. We're gonna stamp that sentiment right below our little panel that we stuck down. I'm gonna use my black ink here. And I want to make sure that I don't have ink on the top. Here we go. Let's stamp this. And our card is a little bit textured, so that's why I'm using my stamping positioner. Okay, now that we have our sentiment stamped, we're going to remove the release paper off of our die cut floral, and then this can go. Last but not least, I'm going to use some of my diamond stickles for a little bit of sparkle, and we're going to keep it simple and just add some sparkle to the flower centers. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead, and I have a little sparkle there, you can see. And then I'm also going to take my ivory seashells, and I'm going to add a few little pearls here, just for a little extra shine. And that will finish off my final card today. So now we have a lot of ivory seashell crystal drops on our cards. So I'm going to share with you all 10 of my cards, and hopefully I don't smear those pearls. So let's start with our first card. I always love, let me zoom back out here. I always love creating with the Spellbinders kits because there's so much, and I have so much left over you would not believe. But there's card number 1, and I'm going to go out of order because some are still drying. But there's card number 2. Maybe I can put them all in frame singly. This is what the leftover from card number 1. And then we have this fun little note card. I'm going to put this over here. Do we have room to put one more? Let's see. Then I don't have to worry about my liquid pearls smearing. There's another one. And this is using the leftover from this. I love multi-purposing. We have these 2 cards. We have our cute as a button and our quilt work. And then we have our thank you card. And then those are all 10 cards I made with the Spellbinders So Happy card kit of the month for September 2022. I hope that this gives you some ideas on how to use the kit. I know during the unboxing I mentioned that I was just going to make a couple, but I can't help myself. I just love creating with the kits. So I hope this gives you some ideas and how to use some items in the kit. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me. I am going to be doing the die of the month, the large die of the month, pretty soon. So thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.